The exploding taxi, or the mystery of the exploding taxi, as it was known at the time. So this is not fake taxi, this is the other kind of taxi. So this is the story you may remember here. So BBC News, Liverpool bomber made device with murderous intent, coroner says. So this is the taxi that turned up at a hospital, a women's hospital, and just blew up, just mysteriously. Just normal things.
Just went up.
British things, as usual.
You know, just spontaneously combusting taxis.
Yeah. And I mentioned that you may remember this, because you may not. Because, of course, how quickly we are made to forget things that don't fit the progressive narrative, don't we? And this was a story that just instantly disappeared. Yeah, should we have a conversation? No, let's just move on. Nothing to see here, Governor. Very much in the same vein as the United States with the guy who drove the truck into all those kids. But,
the rogue truck.
Yeah. Let's go to the next link here, which is the Guardian coverage at the time, just to remind everyone. Keep this burned into your memories, because we're going to get into the actual details of the story in a minute, and this will make you seriously mad when we come back. Ahmad al-Suwelman, Liverpool attack suspect reported to be a Christian convert. So this is the Guardian, running to their typewriters to be like, computers, to be like, he's a Christian, this has nothing to do with Islam, don't offend Islam.
Look at this beautiful picture of him in the sunlight, we've put bloom on it.
Yes, this is Ahmad al-Suwelman.
What a sweet boy.
Yeah. He's of Syrian and Iraqi heritage, they say in here as well. And it was also already known at this point that he was, with his bomb, trying to target a cathedral, and then had to divert to the hospital because he was in traffic, apparently.
A very Christian bombing.
Yes. You know what Christians do? Bomb cathedrals.
It's one of their favourite pastimes.
Again, 4 lines levels. But let's go to the details, because this is the main story. If we go to the next link here, you can see here. Bomber not deported despite asylum rejection. And this is a tragic story of essentially how crap the, let's say, deportation services of our entire civilization is. Not just the United Kingdom.
Obviously, they don't all end in bombings, but we've got countless stories of people just being rejected.
All it takes is a few.
yeah, all it takes is a few for a trend to start. But we've got so many stories of people coming over here, being rejected for their asylum, and then nothing.
Yeah.
They just stay.
Let's read the details. Although Suwelman claimed to be Syrian and in fear for his life, language analysis by the Home Office revealed he was from Iraq. An immigration judge concluded he had no documents to support his claim to be Syrian and no connections with that country. He had travelled into the UK on a genuine Jordanian passport that he claimed was a fake to bolster his case. Off to a great start, just openly lying to us as the nation he wants to move to, of course. Despite the judgment, Suwelman was able to stay in the UK, where he converted to Christianity and made more asylum appeals, on the basis that I'm a Christian, bruv, don't send me back.
That's a very interesting order of events there. Gets rejected, then converts. Almost like it's a tactic.
Almost like it's legal advice.
Yes.
You should become a Christian. Also, mysteriously become gay as well. There's also legal advice I've heard. So, the Home Office has refused to comment on details of Suwelman's asylum case and whether efforts were made to deport him. Now, I wonder why that would be. An inquest, the only public proceedings relating to the bombing, concluded in a single day. They just didn't want to dig deeper into what went on there, because they know what went on there. Because the court documents, as the Times have got here, we can find out why. Suwelman, who suffered from depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder, arrived in Britain in April 2014, and the Home Office refused his application for asylum in November that year. He appealed to the first-tier tribunal, but his case was rejected on April 16th, 2015. So didn't even get past the first stage of appeals, so this is clear bollocks.
Over 7 years since his initial rejection. Just stick around, I suppose, maybe see the sights, you know?
Yeah. But it gets worse, the levels of just utter deceit we have from this individual, well, this terrorist, as it turned out. The judgment reveals that Suwelman claimed he was born and brought up in Syria, but went to live in the United Arab Emirates in 2013. He said he was at risk of persecution if he returned to Syria, a country he had never lived in.
We don't even know if he'd ever been to.
In reality, Suwelman had a middle-class upbringing in Jordan, Iraq, and Dubai. You know, just multiple countries, middle class, doing very well for himself. I mean, the UAE of all places. His mother was Iraqi, and his father was an engineer in Jordan, where he held a passport. He had been living in the UAE, and his explanations for leaving were not credible, according to the Home Office, and there was nothing to suggest he would be at risk in Jordan or Iraq if he were returned there. So just absolutely no reason for him to be anywhere outside of the Middle East, let alone in Europe, let alone in the UK, one of the most northwestern parts of Europe.
Yes.
No reason to be here. And the Home Office knew for years. No one did anything. No. Priti Patel gave an excuse. for all this.
Great.
Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, said he exploited the merry-go-round of Britain's broken asylum system by making repeated claims to say, you can keep saying that, but you've been Home Secretary for quite a while now, and you have reformed all of this stuff, so either it's got to be fixed, or you're the one to blame.
Yeah, you recognise that it's broken. Do something about it.
If the reforms have worked as you say they have, well, why does everything still be broken? However, there is believed to have been a period of at least 2 years where there were no active appeals for Zwellman, yet a removal order was not sought for him. So this destroys her own argument. So she's arguing that, well, he was abusing the system, making all these applications for appeals.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are 2 years where he has no appeal active.
And we just left him.
He just still did nothing. And then they continue this article. Zwellman visited Liverpool's Anglican Cathedral in 2015, saying he wanted to convert. He took an Alpha course to teach him about Christianity and was confirmed in May 2017. And you may remember that his first target was a cathedral. And then he ended up having to go to the hospital because of traffic, as was said.
He was very eager to meet his 72 choir boys.
Yes. So this is a man who is converting to Christianity, presumably for the application reasons, the legal advice, and the idea that the Guardian, as you saw there, initially reported being like, whoa, nothing to do with Islam. He's a Christian. He went there for the legal advice and then tried to bomb it. He made a later asylum appeal, claiming that his late grandfather's Syrian passport had been found. There was a claim under his alias Enzo Alani that he understood to have been under review at the time of the attack. So he then just made some BS claim that his grandfather had a Syrian passport. No one believes that. Yeah. And it was under review at the time he decided to blow himself up. So there's that. But the thing is, this isn't uncommon.
No.
This is incredibly common. Not just the aspect of people lying about their asylum application, but also the terrorists. And we'll mention that, because it doesn't get mentioned, ever, and I don't know why. We'll just go through a short list, shall we? So he, the guy who blew himself up in Liverpool, the exploding taxi, was an asylum seeker, failed, and wasn't deported, because apparently there's no capacity to do so. This one here, so this is the Reading stabber, as you can see there, pictured, I believe this was, what was it, in Libya or something, being a innocent-looking boy.
Model citizen.
Upstanding citizen. He was an asylum seeker. Wonderful. We go to the next one. We have the 2018 Westminster Bridge attacker, who was also an asylum seeker. If we go to the next one, we have the Parsons Green bomber, who was also an asylum seeker. If we go to the next one, we have the one on the left there. That's one of the 3 2017 London Bridge attackers, who was an asylum seeker. If we go to the next one, we have the Manchester bomber. So, I mean, the fact that I'm saying this is not uncommon, it is not uncommon. A vast majority of the successful terrorist attacks in recent years have been asylum seekers.
Yes.
That's something we have to come to terms with.
And we need to talk about this because anybody who... I went to Manchester because I was still going to university in Salford the day after this happened. I had friends who were at that gig and a friend who had been working in the Manchester arena a few days before. Happily, that just happened to be his day off. There's a serious element of trauma that goes into a city after something like this has happened. As anyone who lives in London will probably know when any of the other attacks have happened. It's awful, and then it just gets swept under the rug.
Just things you don't need to remember about. Don't look back in anger.
You go exactly.
Remember
You go to a city and you see armed police officers wandering about with assault rifles, and you think, let's just forgive and forget.
Do you remember after the Finsbury Park mosque attack, in which a guy drove into a bunch of innocent Muslims at a mosque, everyone started singing "Don't Look Back in Anger"?
I don't remember that part. No.
Only goes one way. Interesting. But this is where I'm going to pick up here. So you may remember the Manchester arena bomber. So sorry if we go back. So we can mention the fact that I forget his name correct.
Salman
Abedi. He was the son of refugees from Libya. I swear, just refugees from Libya, just refugees. What happened with all that family? Because I still don't really know, and I don't think anyone's going to know in the end what really went on here with his connection to his parents, because he's the son, remember? Well, if we go to the next link, we can look at his brother, who has been jailed to 55 years in prison
What for?
Involvement in the attack.
Ah, yes. Runs in the family, then.
It's not just him on his own, but
No.
maybe it's the two brothers, maybe it's the two mischievous boys. Just doing what they do.
pair of scamps.
Yeah, boys will be boys after all. We go to the next image. We can see his other brother, pictured here, as a follower of the movement of peace. So this is Ismail Abedi, who was meant to give evidence in the court about the whole situation, and then fled the UK, presumably to go on tour.
With his rocket launcher?
Yeah, just hanging about. If we go to the next image, we can see a picture of Ishmael here on the left, and then the father of the whole family there on the right. Again, a follower of peace and innocence, and a refugee that we need to take care of in the UK. We need to let refugees into the UK because who knows what kind of terror they might get up to
He's a
in Libya.
boon to our economy, Callum. I don't know what you're talking about.
But also, there are men with guns after this man.
Illegal gun sales went up 50% after this man moved in.
But also, just like you remember, the justification for most refugees is they're in immense danger. And if we're looking at a legitimate refugee, such as someone, let's say, in China, who is fleeing the North Korean regime, well, we can't send them back to North Korea. We can't keep them in China. They're not safe there either, because the Chinese deport them back to North Korea. Okay, then we need to bring them to a safe country, and Britain could be one of those safe countries. Instead, we give places to men who are, I am sure, at threat of death.
And he seems like he might be a danger to other people,
Nah.
judging by this picture.
Are we saving people by bringing him here? I'm sure that's kind of logic. And if we go to the next link, we can find out what happened to the dad, which is apparently he's just gone missing. Like, completely.
Oh, he just dropped off the face of the earth.
Yeah, so there was some, like, Islamist militia who ended up arresting one of the brothers and then sent him back for as they say, extradited, and then we give him 55 years. Though not the other one, don't know what happened to him. But the dad was in their custody as well, and they just let him go without charge.
Oh, okay.
So he's just free. Just wandering about.
Doing his thing.
Don't look back in anger. Also,
Oh,
don't
of
look
course.
too deeply into what happened,
No.
or any of the family,
No.
or the fact that we have this continuing problem with the same set of events. I thought we'd go to the next image here, which is a post on Getter from John here, making the point. In 2021, there were 37,562 asylum applications. 13,000 were granted, plus 6,000 family members of refugees were granted reunion visas, but only 48 were served with inadmissibility decisions, and 10 were returned. 10.
And not much really you can say about that. Speaks for itself, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is pathetic. We have no capacity to send people back, apparently. And this isn't a problem just with the UK. This is a problem with the entire Western civilization, frankly. If we go to the next link, we can see some examples of just like the countries coming here, because I endlessly laugh at this graph, because remember how many of those countries border the UK? Zero.
Yeah.
Love my zeros.
I mean, a few of them border each other.
Yeah. Quite. I think basically all of them border
Yes.
safe countries, or can be classified as safe countries, depending on the circumstance, obviously. But the exception rate for the refugee from war-torn Bangladesh, it's 27%. Yeah. If you want to make the argument, as leftists always do, that this is Britain's fault because war, we have troops in 2 of those nations.
Yeah.
And one of them, well, we just left because the Taliban are now in charge, but whatever. Let's go to the next link, because I wanted to also, I think we should have done a book review on The Strange Death of Europe long ago. And
We
never got around to
should
it.
do, to be fair. We still need to do it. I've got a copy of it.
We could do, but I read it on my phone, and I thought I'd take out a few links to talk about this, because this is the situation, which is this bombing, and the fact that he was a failed asylum seeker for several years, and we might be able to say, well, Priti Patel, why have you done your job? And I get that. But the capacity to send people back to where they came from doesn't really exist. We have no means to do this. And I'm not just meaning the UK, I mean the entire Western civilization. This is all of Europe, all the United States, Canada. We are all absolutely crap at this, apparently. And, well, Douglas has the details. As he says in a few of the quotes from here that I'm going to take out, as of the end of May 2016, Germany had over 220,000 people under deportation orders. 11,300 of these were deported to other countries. 5% of the hundreds of thousands of people in Germany that had no more right to be there than anyone else, in fact, had no right to be there. They needed to leave because they'd been given deportation orders. The German authorities were able to deport 5%. Hundreds of thousands of people just get away with it. In fact, almost 200,000, over 200,000 people. And yet, he has a quote. The German Interior Minister boasted in Parliament that, quote, this is much more than in past years.
Ah, this is a good thing. Big number go up mean
Yes.
good.
Success. No, utter failure.
Yeah. Immigration is not stonks.
Yeah. And this speaks to a truth which a lot of people did criticize Douglas, and I think there's fair criticism out there. But one of them is that he doesn't offer solutions. And while this is de facto one of the solutions, as he is pointing out to you, you cannot deport them. The effectiveness of that, let's say, sector of our governments doesn't seem to work, no matter which government you're looking at. Well, in which case, the solution is do not let them in. You process them outside country, and if you want them inside country, or it is valuable to bring them, then you bring them. But if not, don't, because there is no reason for them to be here. And if we go on to the next link, you may remember this story, or at least this absolute meme. So this, for people listening, is an image of a man in a school uniform with his
Hello, fellow kids.
with his stubble. And this is because we allowed child migrants, especially those in Calais, those vulnerable children in Calais, to come over to the UK.
All right, we'll accept you're a child, but you have to go back to school, okay? That's the agreement, all right? All right?
Retake your GCSEs. And the agreement was that, well, we can't let poor, suffering child migrants sit in Calais. Oh, it's horrible. How could we do this? Inhumane.
And where is this boy's parents?
How dare we leave them in France? Don't we know that that's a war-torn Wait, what? So then we brought a bunch of them over, and as you can see here, this is some student on his Snapchat posting, how is there a 30-year-old man in our maths class? With a crying emoji, because this man in a school uniform does look absolutely ridiculous. I thought I'd take some more quotes from The Strange Death of Europe because it gets worse than we ever thought. The UK revealed that only 1 in 5 of the lone child migrants who lie about their age in a bid to stay in the country are ever deported.
So classrooms across the country presumably filled with spry young men like this man.
Get away with it.
Yes.
That's the thing. 4 out of 5, get away with it. This is so obvious, and yet you have an 80% chance of just getting away with it. If you get into the UK, the lesson is, because we are unable to deport these people, you are safe.
And
Once you make it over in that dinghy, no one's going to get rid of you.
Yeah, no wonder they're all heading over here. This guy's probably sending letters to his family back home like, you've no idea how easy it was, guys. Bunch of suckers.
5 plus 6, easy peasy. I got an A and a smiley sticker today at school.
I got a gold star.
Dad, when are you coming home? Don't. I'm too busy in school, son. Bye.
I'm being too successful.
Yeah.
I lead a gang of bullies now.
We bullied the weak kids. But there's, it's not just the UK, as I say again. Sweden sought to discover the age of almost 8,000 people who had recently arrived in Sweden claiming to be child refugees. The checks, carried out in cases where there were doubts as to the age, found that 6,600 of the 8,000 people tested were in fact over the age of 18. That's more than 82%.
Wow.
It's bad enough when we have someone saying, I can't go back to Syria and the documents are all messed up, and you know, it's obvious in the case of the terrorist that he was a bloody liar, and yet he wasn't deported, which is pathetic. But it's obvious to be mad about that. The system is so broken. We have men with beards, apparently, throughout the West, and we are like, I'm not sure if he's a child or not. He
I
might
can't
be 12.
tell. Better take the safe option and let him in.
Put him in year 4. He's got to retake his GCSEs.
Yeah.
That is how pathetic our systems are at dealing with this problem. And Douglas ends this with those who, those 6,600 Swedish child refugees who are all balding. He says, what will happen to them? The same thing that happens to near everybody. They will stay. They will never be deported. They will just continue to live in the West. And this is the problem and the solution he's bringing up implicitly in there, which is you cannot let them in. Because apparently our systems in the West are just not capable of dealing with any of this. Even if it's because of lack of political will or lack of funding or lack of just the balls to do something.
Yes.
Don't know. But either way, the solution is to not let them in. And he has a quote from Mark Stein here, which I want to read as well because it's a great quote. If free countries have to have unsightly security controls, why don't they have them around the national borders rather than around every single thing inside those borders? It's a fantastic point.
It is very inconvenient when you're wandering around major train station. There's no bins because it's easy to put bombs in them.
Or you have the Merkel Christmas present blocks of granite just in the road because
that's
too many
great.
trucks. I mean, I remember when John will attest to this when we were in Russia. When you get a train in Russia, you have to go with your passport and you have to go with like your bags, and they go through the scanning and you get checked like you're going through the airport. And then when you get to the train, you have to give them your passport to check it. So it could always be worse as well.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If we continue to just let hundreds and hundreds of people just rock up on the shores as we are...
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not like we don't have a certain level of good reason to be that cautious at this point.
But this is something to keep in mind. Whenever you talk about any migration, as soon as you have let them into your country, they're never going to leave. At least 80% of them, even if fake, are never going to leave. You cannot let them in. That is the rule of how to deal with this. If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can go over to lotuseaters.com to subscribe to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as this video, which is Contemplations, that went up over the weekend, about why the mainstream media are terrible and are bad for you. But if you'd like to keep up with what else is coming out on the website, you can always follow us on Getter. So you could go, for example, to see more from Josh at Josh's Getter account here, at Josh_firm. Thank you and goodbye.